Good morning, and welcome to Helloship, the podcast where life was reimagined, principles were applied, and flourishing will be achieved. So I woke up this morning and I discovered that my first podcast, which I popped on, I think it was sometime last week, is at 3,500 downloads. And I just want to thank everybody who downloaded, everybody who's listening, everybody who's applying any of the suggestions that were popped into that podcast. I'm very, very grateful for the engagement. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with it. So anyway, I am Elizabeth Rees and I'm a 20-year veteran of corporate workplace consultancy. I'm coming up to 10 years in sobriety, and I have a master's in applied positive psychology. So I bring you stories and research and applied suggestions for improving your well-being by giving you all the information that I learned in the boardroom, the bar, and in the books, whether that's the big book or whether that's any of the books available to all of us through science, spirituality, and sobriety. Anyway, I'm a little bit distracted because my dog is making friends with another dog. I didn't realise there was somebody else in our little private forest. And so far so good. Johnny is being super friendly with, and now that dog's on his way. Johnny's looking a little bereft. Crisis averted. Sometimes it can go either way with Johnny. She's lovely, but sometimes the chemistry is just not there with the other dog. We all know what that's like. Anyway, I thought I would jump on today and talk a little bit more about PERMA and well-being. What is well-being and why it's important to understand a little bit about the mechanisms and the models of well-being. I understand that most people think, well, isn't it enough to just feel good? Isn't that what well-being is? My being is well. I wish I could say it was enough. But the science of flourishing, and let's be clear, when I first started learning about this stuff, only 6% of the UK population could be defined as flourishing. I don't think that number has changed all that much. Globally, it's less. Flourishing is defined as optimum human functioning, and it's within particular pillars of our lives. So the usual things, work, home, relationships, your spiritual life, your emotional life. You can really choose your own pillars. But the PERMA model, which is the original model of well-being, is based on P standing for positive emotions. What are they? How do we experience them? Where do we find them? And when we do, how can we feel more of them? The idea being that to get to a state of flourishing, we feel we have a more positive experience daily and more often within our lives. And we have engagement. So for me, that's a lot about presence. How engaged am I in the conversation that I'm having? How engaged am I in the task that I'm doing? How much engagement am I getting from people who are downloading, liking my content? I don't know. I'm distanced from it. So I feel a lack of presence around that particular area of my life. There's a disconnect by using this medium to try to connect, to form relationships with an audience. Personal engagement is incredibly important to me, as I'm sure it is to you, because the quality of our relationships has a direct and significant impact on the length of our lives. And then we come on to relationships. I've just explained exactly why our relationships are so important. And as I mentioned in an earlier podcast, I'm coming up to 50. My circle is small. I really realised during the pandemic who was around for me in a very real way. It's not to say that there's anything wrong with the people that weren't. It just means that one can focus much more powerfully where one needs to focus when it comes to relationships. Meaning, and I did a recent blog on finding meanings in the fold of a napkin. It sounds like a really tiny thing to be folding 200 napkins and to find flow in that task. But if I hadn't intentionally decided how I wanted to feel about the potential mundanity of that task, if my ego had come into play and, I'd ask myself, don't they know what I've done, who I am? I would never have got into flow and had the breakthrough that I had, which was this job is important. And knowing that, I think, is the only reason that I was given the opportunity to work in a professional kitchen that led to nearly 3 years. I was untrained, I was unskilled. And the head chef recognised something in me in a moment because I had created intention around certain tasks, and it started with the understanding that even a napkin on a plate comes with energy, that then got me to thinking about the food that goes onto the plate and the energy of the people that create it. And somehow, some way, that unlocked an energetic portal, if you like. And I ended up becoming a professional chef for 3 years. But I suppose all of that, even though there are 2 personal anecdotes in there, does go some way to explaining why understanding the mechanisms of a model like PERMA are so important. But I did miss off health. Health comes at the end, and it is a later addition to the original, which ends with, and I forgot accomplishment, meaning and accomplishment. So I have been spending quite a lot of time on LinkedIn, and I'm not enjoying it a huge amount. And it does get me thinking about my own definition of accomplishment. And this morning, I just thought sometimes, generally, getting out of bed and making our bed can be an accomplishment. I joke with the person I'm living with that I have a to-done list, like to-done at the end of the day, instead of creating a to-do list in the morning. Because it's more important to me for my night's sleep that I recognise what I've achieved in the day than what I have not achieved. There's always tomorrow. I'm actually going to sign off at this point because my neighbours are. I'm in the forest where all the tree portals are. But I think my neighbours are starting their Sunday and maybe they're doing some gardening and they're a bit noisy. Hey, maybe I'm the noisy one. And I don't know if you can hear them in the background. Anyway, maybe I'll just keep going for a little bit longer. I'll walk away from them. I just wanted you to know that understanding the mechanisms of well-being is more than just saying, do I feel good in this moment? Because the trick is to leverage every moment and possibility of well-being, to dial it in so that it becomes an unconscious act, and therefore we then embody well-being and the journey to flourishing. I did actually create a workshop which takes the pillars of PERMA in the context of the principles of the miracle morning, because what I noticed is that nobody wants to get up at 5 here. Nobody wants to get up at 6. And in fact, nobody's got any particular reason to get up at 7. It's not just here, because I live in southwest of France. The idea of taking up that entire hour in the morning is not super palatable to a lot of people, and therefore they don't do it. So my workshop was saying, much like we say in recovery, if we forget to pray and meditate in the morning, which is step 11, hey, don't worry, you can start your day at any time. And it's really important for somebody in early recovery to know that they haven't fucked up because they did not pray and meditate in that lovely little window between when you know you're awake and when you open your eyes. And then their whole day becomes based on the fact that they didn't do something, instead of recognizing that they could start their day at any time and dialing in the feeling of accomplishment for doing those things that were hard to do when they were drinking or hard to do in earlier recovery. So we look at in this workshop things that we are already doing, that we are not doing intentionally, and that we are not recognizing as an opportunity to uplift our well-being. So I'll just recap. We're taking the principles of the miracle morning and we're empowering you to embed them into your day in ways that are intuitive and easy, and saying that it's okay. Much like the New York Maids experiment that was conducted in the 80s, please go and look at it. The idea being that you can, when you change your mind, you can change your body and you can change your health outcomes. The way that those maids thought about their work kept them unhealthy, it kept them overweight, and it kept them unfit. And when they were given a new perspective on how to view their work 6 months later, they were happier, they were physically healthier, they saw more meaning in their work, and they were more engaged. And that is what I am asking for attendees of this workshop to consider. I would love to share more about this workshop with you. Please let me know if you're interested, and maybe we can look at me doing a little mini pod on it, or maybe we can even do it together online. But I just, you can hear the cicadas in the background. Got to get Johnny's walk done early before it gets too hot. And I just really wanted to let you know that you can have your well-being your way. And yes, maybe as long as you feel good, that's okay. But when it comes to positive psychology, there are 3 areas for consideration: poor mental health, languishing, and flourishing. Everybody that is okay, everybody that is fine, everybody that's doing well, it falls within languishing. And as most people, and it's a fine area to be in, but understanding these mechanisms means that flourishing is achievable and sustainable. Maybe fine's okay, maybe languishing is okay. Your routines work for you, they always have done. Why would I do anything different? But what if you could feel better? What if you could do more? What if you could go further in your life and business than you've ever gone before? Just by a few simple tweaks to your routine. Because the science does say that languishing is actually the most dangerous area to be in, because we're not building our well-being capital. We're not understanding that a death or a job loss or a breakdown of a relationship, it may be just one of those things, maybe 3 of them in close succession, and we are on a slippery slope to poor mental health because we do not have the capacity or the resources to take those knocks. So I will leave you with this thought, and on a personal note. You won't have read my book, but if you had, or if you choose to, it tells the story of a person that's gone through some shit in a very, very short space of time. And she had these tools, and she applied them. She used them with all the vigour of a drowning woman reaching for a life preserver. If she didn't have them, she would have died. I have no doubt that the character in my book would not have been able to survive when everything was stripped away from her. So we don't have to be suffering to reach for improved well-being. The time to do it is when we're not. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for listening, and enjoy your Sunday. I think I'll drop this out today. Much love from me and Johnny. Bye.